Thanks for being here. So, I get asked all the time, why is it that Amazing Workplace exists and why is it that we focus on employee happiness? In fact, we've got the registered trademark on employee happiness. We've been measuring employee happiness for about a half a decade now. And we've got over a decade's worth of research into employee happiness. And it's all science-backed research, which I can get into in different videos. But I thought today I would spend a little bit of time talking about why employee happiness matters, as well as why you may have seen so many articles in Forbes, Harvard Business Review, and other publications about the topic of employee happiness. So an amazing workplace is simply a workplace that is very impressive, or a workplace that people look at and say, wow, that's a really cool place to work, or wow, that's a really cool workplace. And that's really the goal. The goal is that when people think about your company or they talk about your company, they think of it very favorably or positively, and they have positive feelings about your workplace. They would tell others that they meet, oh my gosh, you got to do business with this company because they're the best. And this is really the foundation of what we do. It's also why we chose the name, because it's the goal. The goal is to really give companies and workplaces the tools needed to create an amazing workplace. So how do you create an amazing workplace? Like, what's the foundation of that? Well, every company has, as we know, people that are connected to it. And those are people that work at the company, people that interact with your company. They could be customers. They could be vendors or suppliers that you interact with. It could be companies that you buy from or companies that buy from you. And of course, the people inside of your organization, which I would argue are probably the most important people, which is not to in any way diminish the value of customers or diminish the value of the relationships that you have with partners and vendors. But foundationally, every company is successful to a large degree based on the people that work within it. Our focus initially in helping companies create amazing workplaces was employee happiness. And as I'll talk about employee happiness, I'll hopefully be able to illustrate why this is such an important topic and how it directly contributes to creating an amazing workplace and your business achieving the outcomes that you want to achieve. So let's talk a little bit about people, and then let's bring it back to employee happiness. It's probably an easier way to do it, because a lot of times when I jump into employee happiness, I get a lot of debates and discussions. Well, what does that really mean, and how do you measure it, and all those other things. But let's start with why this is important. So every company needs people to be successful. We know that. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. The people that you have within your organization are critically important to your success as an organization. Whether you want to be an amazing workplace or not, whether or not any or all of this matters to you, what I'm about to cover is universally true for every business everywhere. And that's that you need people to be successful. If we break that down, you need to get the best people. And this is all about getting the people that are best for your organization, as well as getting the people that you feel like are a good fit to achieve the goals that you have. So that step one is, I got to go get those people. I've got to go build the team, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a large multinational organization. It doesn't really matter how big or small you are. You need to go get the best people for your organization. You're not going to be able to get things done if you don't have people. Step two, of course, is once you've got those people, you've got to be able to get them to get things done. And that's really critically important. Productivity, getting things done, getting those great people that you've already gone out and gotten to go get things done is extremely important to your success. If you just go get a bunch of great people and they sit inside of a room and they don't do anything, that's not very successful. If you have a sports team that's got great players, but they don't actually play, you're not going to be successful. So you've got to get them to get things done. Third is you got to keep them. And that's also really important, because what kills teams is losing good people. What destroys successful organizations is turnover or the loss of good people. We could extend these three things out to customers as well, which I'll do in a different video, where we want to attract customers, we want to get them to buy, and we want to retain customers. So these three things also tie to the customer side of the house, but again, today we're going to focus on employees. So we want to get the best people, in other words, build the best team. We want to get them to be able to get things done and be productive, and then we want to keep them. So let's chat about these three things and how they tie into employee happiness. We know that these are the three key things that every business needs in order to be successful. If you're not running a team, that's great. If you don't get them to get things done, and if you're not able to keep them, you're not going to be as successful as you would be if you did. For the finance or numbers people out there, I'm an accountant, also an attorney, but for the numbers finance people, CFOs, if you will, attracting the best people, getting them to get things done, and retaining them costs less money. Turnover is expensive. Lack of productivity is expensive. And getting the wrong people just waste your time and waste your resources. So it doesn't matter whether you're finance minded or money minded, or whether you're just somebody who wants to build and grow a great organization. These three things are key to the success of every business. So as we created an amazing workplace, and as we started looking at how do we create a tool, how do we create a platform, how do we create software as well as information inside of it that will allow a company to actually achieve success through their people, we had to start with the key things that drive success in every business as they tie to people, which is getting the best people, getting things done, and keeping them. I'm going to restate these because I think this is really important. This all has to do with recruiting, productivity, and retention. So getting the best people is all about recruiting, and that's attracting the best people to your organization. Getting things done, productivity. That's your people that you've gotten in your organization, you have them up and running. They're actually getting things done. And then retention, or reduced turnover would be another way to put it, which is all about keeping your people. Organizations that do these three things well succeed. Organizations that don't do these three things well fail, or they don't succeed as well as they'd like to succeed. And they're certainly not amazing workplaces. If you've got a company that is unable to get great people, you're lacking the people that you need to get things done, you're not going to be as successful. A lot of people are going to look at that and say, not such a great company, right? Say you've got a great team, but they're not highly productive. You're wasting a lot of money. Financially, you're not going to be an amazing workplace. The reputation in the marketplace is going to be, oh, well, yeah, the company's got a lot of smart people, but they just don't get a lot done. Their product life cycles or whatever it is that they're producing isn't really being produced at the volume and quantity and speed that it needs to be. And then retention or turnover is absolutely killer. If you're losing people left and right, the reputation is going to be that, geez, this is a company that can't keep their people, and they're not going to be as successful if you're losing great team members, right? So as we look at these three things, and then we start to break this down as to well, what is it that I could measure? What is it I could focus on? What can I do as a business owner? What can I do as a company in order to improve recruiting, increase productivity, and increase retention or reduce turnover? So the goal here is to do a better job at these three critically important steps, or do a better job at these three critically important things, right? What can I do to actually be more successful in attracting the best people, getting them to be productive, and retaining them? Well, it's employee happiness. Let me explain. People are attracted to work at companies because they believe they're going to be happy working there. Nobody takes a job at a company if they believe they're going to be miserable working at that company. You've heard of Glassdoor, or if you haven't heard of Glassdoor, Glassdoor is a website that people can go to, and they can anonymously leave reviews about companies that they may or may not have worked at. There's kind of a lack of controls inside of this website, but it's a website where often people will go complain about where they've worked, or they'll leave negative reviews, a lot of negative reviews, or sometimes they'll leave positive reviews. And it's a website that many applicants, people that are out there looking for jobs, go and look at. In fact, according to Glassdoor, It's kind of like one of the stops that people go, when they're looking online and looking for a job. This is one of the places that they stop on the internet in order to review or evaluate a company. Well, why do people do that? They do that because they want to know how others feel working there. They want to know what it's like working at that company. They want to have confidence before they take that job, before they come in and work in your company, that it's a company where they're going to be treated well and where people are happy. This is why Glassdoor has done so well historically, is that they have put out there all these reviews. In terms of volume, I'm not recommending Glassdoor. There's lots of negative aspects of Glassdoor as well as obviously some positives. But the whole idea here is that if I'm going to recruit or go attract the best people, the people that are looking for jobs, the people that are looking for a workplace, they're going to be more attracted to a workplace where they believe that people are happy. That's also why so many companies pursue and achieve awards. The top workplace awards, the We Do Awards, Amazing Workplace Awards, whatever those awards are, what they're trying to do is they're trying to attract people and say, hey, we've got a workplace where people love coming to work. Don't you want to come work here as well? So having happy employees where the world knows that your employees are happy is critically important to getting the best people. If we're wanting to actually attract the best people, having happy employees is going to help you achieve that goal, that important first step in building a great team. If the world knew that your people were happy at work, if the world knew that the people that came to work at your workplace genuinely looked forward to coming to work every day, and they were openly communicative with all of the people around them about how great it was, it's going to be a lot easier to recruit. It's going to be a lot easier to attract and build that great team. So let's move from recruiting to getting things done. There was a study done by British Telecom and Oxford University where they actually measured how happy people were at work. And it wasn't simply a measurement of how happy they were in some vague connection to productivity. They actually measured how many individual tasks got done. The study was done in the early 2020s. It was 2022, 2023. I can get you the actual link or somewhere in the link below. But this study measured how happy people were and how much they got done. The study concluded that happy employees get upwards of 15% more done in a day than unhappy employees. So for those money people out there, if you were to take your $100 million company, increase it by 15% productivity, it's going to have a pretty significant positive outcome on your business. Productivity, common sense is that a happy person is more likely to get things done at work. An unhappy person is less likely to get things done at work. When's the last time that you were super pissed off, really irritated, and you look back at the day and said, wow, I was super productive today? You were probably distracted, upset, frustrated, and you just didn't get as much done because of all of those emotions that were going on. So when we talk about getting things done or productivity, happiness is definitely a driver in getting things done. And there are a ton of scholarly articles out there, apart from the study that was done by Oxford and British Telecom, about the fact that happiness directly impacts productivity at work. So we've talked about how happiness can really help you with recruiting. We've talked about the fact that happy people are factually more productive. Let's talk about retention. People leave jobs because they're not happy. People leave jobs because they're not pleased with things at work. They don't feel very glad. We're not talking about satisfaction. Satisfaction and happiness are not the same. Those two words and the meanings of those two words get conflated. And that what that means is that these two separate different definitions get squished together into one made up definition. Happiness was created, according to Rome, Italy, Latin, around 1100, 1150. And it was directly translated to mean a feeling of very glad. Satisfaction was created almost 300 years later. And the direct translation was to have enough. So to have enough is not the same as feeling very glad. Think of your personal life. If you were to walk up to somebody that you care about or that you love, could be your partner, could be somebody that you are really close with, and you walk up and you say, hey, I feel very satisfied about our relationship. It's not going to have the same impact as it would if you walked up to them and said, hey, I feel very happy in a relationship. So when we talk about happiness, what we're talking about is something that is really a much higher standard. It's a much more positive feeling or outcome. And keeping people, retaining people is all about them feeling very glad at work, them feeling as though they're happy, right? And when they're not happy, that's when they leave. Nobody sits at a bar after work, grabs a beer with a friend, talks about work and says, yeah, I'm thinking about looking for another job. Their friend says, well, why are you doing that? Well, because I'm super happy. No, those don't match. What they say are things like, I'm not happy working there. I don't like fill in the blank, right? So when people are not happy, they start looking for other opportunities. When people are not happy, they start thinking about, where should I go where I could be happy? And in fact, if you think about all of the conversations you've ever had as you've maybe left one job and gone to another, and the person that you're closest to says, hey, why do you want to leave? They're going to share with you why they're not happy. They're going to talk about all the things that they're not happy about. And then when they're asked about the new job, why are you taking that new job? You're going to share all the reasons why you believe you will be happier working at that job. So happiness is really critically important to retaining your employees or your people. So when we look across all of what I've just talked about, when we look at holistically, what are we talking about here? We're talking about creating an amazing workplace. We're talking about creating a workplace where people admire your company, they think positively of it, and the people that matter most in your organization that are thinking positively of your workplace, the people that are critically important to your success, your employees, these individuals that feel happy are going to assist you in recruiting, productivity, and retention, which are the key three things to being successful as a company. So let's chat a little bit about how employee happiness gets measured and why it's different than other things that are measured today. By now, my hope is that you're in agreement that employee happiness matters, that if we could wave a magic wand and everybody could be happy, we would do a better job at recruiting. We would do a better job of productivity, and we would obviously retain people much better. So then the next question that we often get is, well, what do you do with all this information? I get that you've got a company that measures employee happiness. I get that it's different than other things that are measured out there. It's not satisfaction. It's not engagement, which we'll talk about in a different video. For those that don't know what engagement is a word used to describe, I'm going to give you one of like 30 definitions that exist, but it's a word used to describe how committed people are to your workplace. It's not happiness. It's the series of questions that are asked, which are different depending on who you use to measure it. Anyhow, we'll dive into that later. I'm sorry for introducing that complicated topic or subject, but engagement gets measured a lot right now. Satisfaction gets measured a lot right now. And those two things are not going to drive employee happiness. The questions that are presented or the statements that are presented to employees that they fill out in the surveys that look like tests, they don't actually provide your organization with how your people feel. And they also don't, importantly, tell you why they feel that way. And this is a really important distinction. Understanding how your people feel is step one. If we could walk into a room and we had, and I'm going to use numbers just to make life easier. Let's say we had 100 people that worked at our company. If we could walk into a room and know with confidence and certainty that 50 people that are standing over on one side of the room were happy or very happy, and that the other 50 people were not yet happy. Maybe they're satisfied, maybe they're unsatisfied, maybe they're unhappy, but they're not yet happy. If we could walk into a room and really know with confidence how people felt, that's step one. And the Amazing Workplace platform achieves that goal because we actually measure how people feel, not weird numbers or scores or ratings or 73s or 72s or 0 to 10 skills or 0 to 5 skills. The survey companies that exist in the area of employee surveys use all sorts of very unique, I would even go so far as to say odd ways of measuring whatever it is that they're presenting to companies. It's not employee happiness. But if we could walk into a room and know exactly how people felt, that's step one. What that does is it provides us with a baseline of where our organization is today. We know with confidence and certainty, by exact numbers, exactly how many people are happy and exactly how many people are not yet happy. What the system also does through the conversation technology that we've created is it pulls out from that conversation why people feel the way they do. And this is really, really important. Unlike traditional surveys, unlike traditional survey tests, we're actually able to provide an organization the exact reasons why their employees feel the way they feel, whether it's the happy group of people that are happy for the following reasons, or whether it's the not yet happy people that are not yet happy for the following reasons. We're able to present exactly why. And what's great about this is that it's not simply grabbing comments, though we do grab comments. It actually teases out through the conversation. When I say teases out, it conversationally gets people to open up and to communicate why they feel happy, why they don't yet feel happy, what would make them feel happier. And all of that information is brought together, and it's truly brought together numerically in a way where there's no doubt about what you could do to take action to improve employee happiness at work or to maintain employee happiness at work. And that's the key here, is it's the system. If all we did was present how and why, we would be way ahead of the competition, because the other organizations that measure through surveys, they can give you numbers and they can approximate how people are doing tied to whatever they're asking about. But what's really missing is the why. And that's something that we knew we had to bring to the table. There's no way to improve a person's happiness if we don't understand why they are happy or why they're not yet happy. So we had to actually create a technology that would pull out why people are happy or not. And then all of this ties into the most important step of all of this entire exercise, which is we as an organization need to take action that really matters. And this is critically important to the success of any organization. As we're trying to build an amazing workplace, we're trying to build a reputation. We know that happy people are far more likely to promote our organization in a way that we attract the best talent. We know that having a reputation in the workplace of being a happy workplace where people are really happy, it's going to attract the best people. We know that they're going to be more productive. We know that we're going to retain them. So how do we achieve this? We achieve this by understanding how our people feel first. Like that's like number one, is we have to understand how. Number two, we need to understand why. And the why is what drives the actions that we're going to take, which is really step three, which is to actually take action based on this feedback. If all we're doing is spending money on surveys and getting numbers and throwing them into a drawer right beside our desk and doing nothing with it, we're never going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve with our people. We've got to actually, step one, understand how they feel. Step two, understand why they feel that way. And then we've got to take action that really matters. And this is the key here. So let's actually, let's talk about what others are measuring out in the world today. I've already mentioned a couple of these words. Satisfaction has been measured since the 1980s. It was something that started to be measured because of a failure of the surveys that have been out in the marketplace, which were measuring morale, a failure of those to actually create a meaningful improvement. So post-World War II, there was a series of surveys that got created that went out to businesses, and it was measuring morale. Those did not see an improvement over about 30 years. a bunch of research was done, and the research concluded that, hey, people do need to have what they need at work. They need to actually have the tools and resources necessary in order to be successful at work. It's actually very smart. This led to satisfaction being measured, because satisfaction, we know, directly translates into having enough or having what you need or want, would be another way to describe satisfaction in a work context. So there was a bunch of research done about job burnout, or JDR, job demands resources, all tied to burnout. And what that was really focused on was making sure that people had the tools and resources that they need at work. In fact, many of you may know from surveys that you've taken that in those surveys, one of the questions that's commonly asked is, do you feel like you have what you need or want to be successful at work? Or do you have the tools and resources needed to be successful at work? Some question along the lines of that satisfaction, piece right there. That started getting measured in the 80s, and it's actually not stopped since then. Satisfaction is still measured today. So for over 45 years, satisfaction has been measured. Now, just like morale, satisfaction has not gone up over time. The average satisfaction worldwide has floated around 60% satisfied and has not changed in 45 years. It's gone to 58, 59, 60. If you were to look at the financial statements of a company, or if you were looking to invest in a company, and in 45 years you just saw a flat line with no increase, you're not likely to invest in that company. So just like morale, after 30 years of not a lot of success, satisfaction after about 20 years of no success, the group came in of survey people, companies, and they said, hey, we got to measure something different. So they jumped on this idea of engagement, which is all about whether or not employees are engaged at work. Now, what's fascinating about this is that unlike satisfaction, which had a pretty uniformly agreed on definition, engagement, wildly different from company to company. So you get engagement that means that your people are committed to the outcomes of your workplace. You've got engagement that's defined as people that are loyal to your workplace. You've got engagement that means that people are really excited and enthusiastic to work at your workplace. So depending on the company that you're working with, or depending on the company that is surveying, engagement's measured completely differently. The questions that are presented or the statements that are presented, the way that they measure, how they define it, it's all different from company to company. Not surprisingly, we fast forward almost 30 years, engagement scores have floated right around either 30% if you're using a company like Gallup, or they've floated right around 60 to 70% if you're using a company like Culture Amp or Qualtrics. These are kind of the leading survey companies in this engagement space. So we're right back to where we were 100 years ago. We're measuring things that don't really matter to employees. We're not measuring employee happiness. We're not measuring something that people understand in most cases. In fact, 6 out of 10 employees have no idea what employee engagement or engagement even means. We're not able to get the best talent because we're not actually measuring something that matters to our people. We're not measuring something that's going to drive recruiting. When's the last time you were attracted to work at a company because you heard their engagement scores were high? When's the last time that you walked up to a friend and said, hey, we just got these great engagement scores, you should come work here? Nobody takes a job because of engagement. Productivity, in a later video, I'll break down the questions that are asked tied to engagement, and you can clearly see that engagement questions or statements don't often tie to productivity. Retention, again, nobody sits around at home talking to their significant other saying, hey, I'm going to quit my job. And their partner says to them, why are you going to quit your job? And they say, well, our engagement scores are really crappy, or geez, our engagement scores aren't very high, or I don't feel very engaged at work. The language that they use, the feelings that they have are all tied to how happy they feel or not happy they feel. So we knew there had to be a better way to actually measure this. So why is it that nobody did this previously? Well, because we found out, just like others did, that it's not as simple as walking up to somebody and saying, hey, are you happy or not? That feeling can vary greatly depending on what it is that you're talking about. So we had to come up with a very unique technology, a conversation, which goes all the way back to the beginning. The very first surveys that were done back in the early 1900s were actually in-person surveys where professionals were meeting with employees. They were talking about topics that mattered to employees, and they were taking notes about why employees felt the way they did and what could be done to improve it. And it was wildly successful. Again, we'll go into this in another video, but that shifted away from those in-person conversations to the tests that have been taken for almost 100 years. And it really got far away from what was successful back in the early 1900s. So we knew there had to be a better way. So we built it. We built a conversation platform that actually interacts with your people, and it's interactive just like a conversation, where it allows them to open up and truly communicate for the first time how happy they feel, so that your organization knows how those people feel, why they feel that way. And then we have tools in the platform that allow you to track the action that you decide to take to improve or maintain happiness at your workplace. So if you're an organization and you want to do well, whether you work with Amazing Workplace or not, whether you use our people platform or not, whether you decide to do anything with us, my hope is that you at least walk away from this conversation understanding that employee happiness is the key to recruiting, productivity, and retention. It's not engagement, it's not satisfaction, it's not morale, all of which have been measured and tested, and all of which have proven out to be an ineffective way to improve numbers within organizations. And it's also just not practically something that gets used anywhere. In other words, nobody out in the real world talks about engagement, morale, or satisfaction as they describe being attracted to a job, feeling very productive, and or wanting to stay at a job. So anyhow, hopefully this is helpful. We'll cover some more videos later. There's lots of videos that we have available. But this is the overview of employee happiness and how it ties into a business and its success. Thank you.